This is KGW News at noon.
The housing crisis is affecting everyone in Portland. You see tents on sidewalks and trash. Multnomah County reported more than 2,000 people sleeping on the streets in 2019. That's the latest data we have access to, and those numbers are rising. Today, city leaders will announce their plan to reverse that trend. Hello, everyone. I'm Brenda Braxton. In just a few hours, Portland will announce the locations of 3 city-sanctioned homeless camps. These safe rest villages will house around 50 people and look something like this. Housing Commissioner Dan Ryan says they're on track to open by 2022. In the meantime, 9 local churches are lending a hand. Some will open their doors as shelters. One of them is at Community of Christ Church in Northeast Portland.
These buildings are utilized a lot during the week, but in the evenings, they're just kind of there.
This is a way that we can say, like, let's partner with you to our neighbors, let's partner with the city, and let's do good together.
The goal is to get 13 churches on board and start sheltering families next spring. And stay tuned. This afternoon at 3 o'clock, the city's announcing where it will put those 3 new homeless camps. We'll have coverage online and on air starting at 4. This is also the topic of conversation on Straight Talk Friday night at 7, when Commissioner Ryan will be our guest. Now to Portland's Kenton neighborhood and a rash of gun violence there. It's had a homicide and 2 armed robberies in the last week and a half. The 2 robberies hit the same business, the Kenton Club. Here's security footage showing 2 men with guns robbing a bartender early last week. There was also a second armed robbery this week, and it was also caught on camera. These are not isolated incidents. Just a day before the first robbery, a man was shot and killed at Kenton Park.
30 years living in this neighborhood or doing business, have I ever seen Kenton undergo or see what it's doing now.
We also spoke with the president of the Kenton Business Association. She says the neighborhood needs help from the city. In addition to more police officers, she says new lighting and cameras in the area would go a long way. Well, the statues torn down in Portland during last year's protests may not be returning to the same spots. This includes statues of former Presidents Lincoln and Roosevelt downtown. The Regional Arts and Culture Council is in charge of placing and maintaining public art. The council does not recommend returning the statues, but the city will make the final call. In Washington, a statewide ban on thin plastic bags goes into effect tomorrow. The ban targets single-use plastic bags, and not just the ones at grocery store checkout stands. A lot of restaurants use them for takeout. Washington's Department of Ecology says if you can, bring reusable bags from home. Stores will also sell bags to customers for 8 cents a piece.
It will take some getting used to. We don't expect everyone to love it immediately, but I think waste reduction is something we can all get behind, and I think we would all like to see less of these bags littering our environment.
One other thing about this story, if you show proof that you're on a food assistance program, you won't have to pay that bag fee. You can read more about Washington's plastic bag ban on our website, kgw.com. Well, if you plan to visit the North Oregon coast, there's a health advisory this noon. Stay out of the water at Cannon Beach and Tolovana State Park. The problem is unsafe levels of fecal bacteria in the ocean. The advisory even covers creeks and pools of water there on the beach. The bacteria may be coming from stormwater runoff, sewer overflows, or animal waste. Okay, Rod is joining me now, but before we get to his forecast, we do want to talk about the changing seasons and the health of our trees this fall.
So tomorrow's the first day of October, right? And you're thinking, okay, fall is here, but you may have noticed that the colorful leaves are ahead of schedule, particularly maybe in your yard. So that could be a sign that your trees are actually in trouble. Keely Chalmers explains why.
It's fall, the time when the trees start to turn those vibrant colors. But if you've noticed some trees turning colors or even dropping leaves earlier than normal, Jim Gersbach with Oregon's Department of Forestry says there's a reason for that.
That's really a sign of drought, not of an early fall.
Normally, most all leaves have those yellows and oranges in them, but in the summertime, those colors are masked by green, because it's that green pigment, also known as chlorophyll, that allows the leaf to photosynthesize and produce food for the tree. The problem:
when you have a drought, dry conditions, trees are not able to get water to all of their leaves, and that certainly happened this summer.
So what's happening now? Some of the trees are basically just shutting down early.
We're seeing a lot of typical drought stress in the trees.
Arborist Jessica Henderson says it wasn't just the heat that stressed the trees. It was initially the damaging ice storms. And of course, there was the drought.
As the water sources throughout the year are reducing, things are just more brittle. So that's pretty typical, but I feel like we started to notice that earlier in the summer.
Henderson says for conifers, you can tell they're stressed by looking up. The crowns might look brown, like this. She says most will likely come back, but if you want to ensure your conifers remain healthy and those leafy trees display their full fall color next year, you might want to give them some good soakings yourself during those hot summer months. And then
Just thinking about what you're planting next, and as we're getting longer and hotter summers, that we can plan for that in the future.
Keely Chalmers, KGW News.